The charity gala glittered like a constellation brought down to earth. Crystal chandeliers scattered light across marble floors, and the air smelled of expensive perfume and champagne. Celeste Morgan stood near a pillar, clutching a glass of wine she hadn't tasted, watching Nina work the room with effortless grace. She didn't belong here. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to return to her small apartment, where the silence felt safer than this overwhelming grandeur. "You look lost." The voice came from behind her, low and warm. Celeste turned and found herself looking into the darkest eyes she'd ever seen. The man was tall, wearing a simple black suit that somehow looked more expensive than everything else in the room. But it wasn't his appearance that caught her. It was the way he looked at her, really looked at her, like she was the only person who existed. "I am lost," she admitted, surprising herself with her honesty. "I don't usually come to things like this. Neither do I." A half smile played at his lips. "I'm Adrian, Celeste." He extended his hand. When she took it, something electric passed between them. His grip was firm, his palm warm against hers, and he held on just a moment longer than necessary. "Dance with me, Celeste." It wasn't really a question. Before she could protest, he was guiding her toward the dance floor. His hand settled on her waist, and suddenly the room narrowed to just the two of them. He moved with quiet confidence, leading her through the music like he'd done this 1,000 times. "What do you do?" she asked, trying to fill the charged silence between them. "I solve problems," Adrian said, his eyes never leaving hers. "And you?" "I'm a librarian, a keeper of stories." His smile deepened. "I bet you have stories of your own you've never told anyone." The observation cut too close. Celeste felt exposed, vulnerable in a way that should have terrified her. But instead, she felt alive for the first time in years. They danced through 3 songs. He asked her about books, about the library, about what made her laugh. He listened like her words mattered, like she mattered. And slowly, Celeste felt the walls she'd built around herself begin to crack. "I need to tell you something," Adrian said, as the music shifted to something slower. His expression turned serious, almost pained. "I'm not who people think I am." Before he could continue, a commotion erupted near the entrance. A woman in a crimson dress was pointing at Adrian, her voice rising above the music. "That's him. That's Adrian Thorne! Someone get security." The blood drained from Adrian's face. He released Celeste immediately, stepping back like she'd burned him. "Adrian, what's happening?" Celeste asked, confusion and fear twisting inside her. The crowd parted, and Celeste saw men in dark suits moving toward them. Adrian's jaw clenched, and for a moment, she saw something dangerous flash in his eyes, something that didn't match the gentle man who'd held her so carefully moments ago. "I'm sorry," he whispered, and then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd before the security team could reach him. Nina appeared at Celeste's side, breathless. "Oh my God, do you know who that was?" "Adrian," Celeste said numbly, still staring at the spot where he'd vanished. "Adrian Thorne," Nina corrected, her eyes wide. "He's the CEO of Thorne Industries, one of the youngest billionaires in the country." "Celeste, what were you doing dancing with Adrian Thorne?" The room spun. The man who'd looked at her like she was precious, who'd listened to her talk about library cataloging systems with genuine interest, was a billionaire CEO, someone so far beyond her reach it was laughable. "I didn't know," Celeste whispered, but the worst part was the look on his face before he ran. Not embarrassment, not anger, fear. What was a man like Adrian Thorne afraid of? 3 days passed. 3 days of Celeste trying to convince herself that Adrian Thorne was just a rich man who danced with her on a whim. 3 days of failing. She was reshelving books in the history section when she felt that electric awareness again. Celeste turned, and there he was, standing between the stacks like a ghost who'd materialized from her thoughts. He looked different in daylight. More real, more dangerous. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, and there were shadows under his eyes like he hadn't slept. "How did you find me?" Celeste asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You told me you were a librarian. There are only so many libraries downtown." Adrian stepped closer, and she caught the scent of cedar and something darker. "I needed to see you. Why?" Because I can't stop thinking about you. The admission seemed to cost him something. Because I need to explain. You're a billionaire CEO, Celeste said, crossing her arms. What could you possibly need to explain to someone like me? Someone like you? Adrian's expression hardened. You mean someone real? Someone who doesn't see me as a bank account or a business opportunity? I don't understand. That woman at the gala, the one who called security, she's my ex-fiancée. She's been stalking me for 6 months, showing up everywhere I go, making scenes. He ran a hand through his hair. The restraining order doesn't seem to matter to her. Celeste's anger wavered. Why didn't you just tell me who you were? Because for 1 hour I wanted to be just Adrian. Not Adrian Thorne, CEO, not the man everyone wants something from. His eyes locked on hers with devastating intensity. When I'm with you, Celeste, I feel like I can breathe. She should have walked away. This was madness. But instead, she found herself asking, what do you want from me? Nothing. Adrian stepped closer until only inches separated them. That's the point. You want nothing from me except conversation. Do you know how rare that is? This can't work, Celeste said, even as her heart hammered against her ribs. We're from different worlds. Then let's create our own. His hand reached out, fingers grazing her cheek with aching gentleness. Let me take you somewhere. Somewhere away from all of this. Adrian, please. The word broke something in her. This powerful man was begging her, and she was powerless to refuse. They met that night at an address he'd given her, a private rooftop garden she'd never known existed, hidden above the city's chaos. The space was filled with string lights and the scent of night-blooming jasmine. A small table held food he'd clearly prepared himself. Nothing fancy, just pasta and wine. You cook? Celeste asked, surprised. My mother taught me before she died. It's one of the few things that still makes me feel connected to her. Adrian pulled out her chair. I wanted tonight to be real. No pretense. They ate and talked. He told her about growing up poor, about losing his mother when he was 16, about building his company from nothing, because he'd been desperate to never feel powerless again. She told him about her father, about the grief that had hollowed her out, about choosing invisibility as armor. You're not invisible to me, Adrian said, his voice rough with emotion. You're the most vivid thing I've ever seen. He kissed her then, and Celeste felt the last of her walls crumble. His mouth was urgent against hers, like he was drowning and she was air. When they finally broke apart, they were both trembling. Stay with me tonight, Adrian whispered against her lips. Just sleep beside me. I just want to hold you. They lay together on the rooftop under the stars, his arms wrapped around her, and for the first time since her father died, Celeste felt safe. But as dawn broke, Adrian's phone shattered the peace. He answered it, his body going rigid. When? His voice was ice. How bad? Celeste sat up, watching as his expression transformed into something cold and calculating. When he hung up, he wouldn't look at her. Adrian, what's wrong? There's been a leak at my company. Someone sold confidential information about a merger. It could destroy everything I've built. I'm sorry, Celeste said, reaching for him. He pulled away. I need to go. I need to fix this. Of course, I understand. But as he stood to leave, his phone lit up with a message. Celeste saw it before he could grab it, saw the name that made her blood run cold. Nina Chen. Why is my best friend texting you? Celeste asked slowly. Adrian's face went pale. Celeste, why is Nina texting you, Adrian? He closed his eyes. She's my head of public relations. She's been working for me for 2 years. The world tilted. She never told me. I asked her not to. I asked her to introduce us, to bring you to that gala. Adrian's voice was hollow. This was all planned, Celeste. I wanted to meet you without the pressure of who I am. You used my best friend to manipulate me? Celeste stood, backing away from him. Everything you said, everything we shared, it was all a lie? No, the plan was the introduction, but everything else was real. What I feel for you is real. Get out. Celeste, please. Get out! He left, and Celeste collapsed onto the rooftop floor, her heart shattering into pieces she wasn't sure could ever be repaired. But as the sun rose higher, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number with a single photo attachment. It was Adrian, much younger, standing beside her father outside the old library where she'd volunteered in high school. Both men were smiling, arms around each other's shoulders like old friends. The message read, "Ask him about Thomas Morgan. Ask him how your father really died." Celeste stared at the photo until her eyes burned. Her father and Adrian together years ago. It was impossible. Her father had died of a heart attack in his sleep. Natural causes. The doctors had been certain. She called Nina first, her hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the phone. "I can explain," Nina said before Celeste could speak. "You've been working for him this whole time. You brought me to that gala because he told you to. Celeste, please come over. I'll tell you everything." 30 minutes later, Celeste stood in Nina's apartment, her arms crossed protectively over her chest. Nina looked guilty, makeupless and small in a way Celeste had never seen her. "He offered me the job 2 years ago," Nina began. "I didn't know he knew you. Then 6 months ago, he saw a photo on my desk, you and me at graduation. He asked about you. He seemed so interested, so I told him stories about you. And then what? He decided I'd be a fun project? No." Nina's eyes filled with tears. "He asked to meet you. He said he wanted to get to know you naturally, without the weight of who he is. I thought I was helping. I thought maybe you two could be good for each other." "Did you know about my father?" Celeste's voice cracked. "Did you know Adrian knew him?" Nina's face went white. "What?" Celeste showed her the photo. Nina studied it for a long moment, then slowly shook her head. "I've never seen this." "Celeste, I swear I didn't know. Who sent it to you?" "I don't know. An unknown number." Nina grabbed her laptop. "Give me the number. I can trace it through the company system." While Nina worked, Celeste's phone rang. Adrian. She declined it. He called again. And again. Finally, she answered. "What? Where are you?" His voice was frantic. "Celeste, you're in danger. That photo, whoever sent it to you, they're trying to hurt you to get to me." "Why would anyone need to hurt me? I'm nobody." "You're not nobody to me." The raw emotion in his voice made her chest ache. "Please tell me where you are. I'm sending security. I want answers, Adrian. I want the truth about my father." A long silence. Then, "I'll tell you everything. But not over the phone. It's not safe. I don't trust you. I know. But trust me enough to let me protect you. Please." Nina looked up from her laptop, her face ashen. "Celeste, the number. It's registered to Victoria Marsh." "Who?" "Adrian's ex-fiancée, the woman from the gala." Celeste's blood went cold. Before she could respond, Nina's apartment windows exploded inward in a shower of glass. Both women screamed, diving to the floor as shards rained down on them. "Celeste!" Adrian's voice through the phone was pure terror. "What's happening?" "Someone just threw something through Nina's window," Celeste gasped, her ears ringing. "I'm 3 minutes away." "Don't move!" "Don't go near the windows." Nina crawled over to Celeste, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Wrapped around a brick on the floor was a note. Nina unfolded it with shaking hands and read aloud. "He killed Thomas Morgan. Ask him about the patents. Ask him how he built his empire on a dead man's work." Celeste felt the world narrow to a single point of white-hot rage. When Adrian burst through the door moments later, flanked by security guards, she was already standing. Glass crunched under her feet as she walked toward him. "Tell me the truth," she said, her voice eerily calm. "Right now, or I walk out of your life forever." Adrian looked at the broken windows, at Nina's bleeding face, at Celeste's expression, and something inside him seemed to break. "Your father was my mentor," he said quietly. "When I was 19 and had nothing, he gave me a job at the library. He saw something in me no one else did. He had been working on technology patents, ideas for software that could revolutionize data management. He showed them to me, asked for my input. And then he died. Suddenly, the heart attack." Adrian's voice cracked. "I was devastated. But I was also broke and desperate. 6 months later, I filed those patents in my name. I built Thorn Industries on his ideas." The confession hung in the air like poison. "You stole from him." Celeste's voice was hollow. "From my father. I told myself I was honoring his memory, that he would have wanted his work to exist in the world. But the truth is, I was a coward and a thief. Tears streamed down Adrian's face. I've spent every day since trying to become someone worthy of his faith in me. Trying to be someone he'd be proud of. And me? Celeste asked. What was I? Atonement? You were supposed to be. Adrian's honesty was brutal. At first, when I saw your photo, I thought maybe if I could do something good for his daughter, I could somehow make it right. But then I met you, and you became everything. Not atonement. Just you. You built your entire fortune on my father's stolen work, and you thought dating me would fix that? I thought I could tell you the truth eventually. I thought I could give you half of everything, sign over the patents, whatever it took. But first, I just wanted you to know me as Adrian, just a man who was falling in love with you. Celeste laughed, a broken sound that turned into a sob. You don't know what love is. Love isn't built on lies. You're right. Adrian stepped toward her, then stopped when she flinched. But I'm learning. You've taught me what it means to be seen for who I really am, not what I can provide. And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to understand something. What? Victoria knows everything. She's been digging into my past for months, and she found the connection to your father. That's why she's doing this. She wants to destroy me by hurting you. Nina spoke up, her voice weak. Celeste, we need to get you somewhere safe. But Celeste was staring at Adrian, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the CEO, not the charming man from the gala, just a broken boy who'd made terrible choices and was trying to live with them. I need time, she said finally. I need to think. Celeste, Victoria won't stop. She's escalating. Then maybe you should go to the police. I can't. Adrian's voice dropped to a whisper. If I report her, she'll release everything to the media. Your father's name will be dragged through the mud. People will say he was trying to scam me, that the patents weren't really his. I have lawyers who will make that narrative stick to protect me. So you'd let my father's memory be destroyed to save yourself? No. Adrian looked her dead in the eyes. I'd let my company be destroyed to save him. But I need your permission first. This affects you too. Celeste felt the weight of the choice settling on her shoulders. Expose Adrian and potentially ruin her father's reputation in the process. Or stay silent and let him keep what he'd stolen. Before she could answer, Adrian's head of security rushed in. Sir, we have a situation. Victoria Marsh is downstairs with reporters. She's threatening to tell them everything unless you come down and talk to her. Adrian's jaw clenched. How many reporters? At least 20. Every major outlet. He looked at Celeste. What do I do? The question hung between them, loaded with impossible weight. Celeste realized in that moment that she held all the power. She could destroy him with a single word. Tell them the truth, she said finally. All of it. About my father, about the patents. Take responsibility. That will end me. I know. Adrian stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. He turned to leave, but Celeste grabbed his arm. Wait. Adrian stopped, his whole body tense as he waited for Celeste to speak. If you go down there and confess, Victoria wins, Celeste said slowly, her mind racing. She doesn't care about justice. She wants to see you broken. She'll get her wish. No. Celeste felt something sharp and clear crystallizing in her chest. My father wouldn't want this. How can you say that? Adrian turned to face her. I stole from him. You were a kid who was desperate and made a terrible choice. But you've spent 10 years building something extraordinary. You've created thousands of jobs. You've changed entire industries. Celeste's voice strengthened. My father was a dreamer who never got to see his ideas realized. Maybe you were supposed to be the one to bring them to life. Celeste, don't try to absolve me. I'm not. What you did was wrong. But destroying everything now won't bring my father back. It won't change the past. Nina, still holding a cloth to her bleeding forehead, spoke up. She's right, Adrian. If you go down there, Victoria gets what she wants. But there's another way. What way? Adrian asked. Nina looked at Celeste. We use the truth differently. We control the narrative. I'm listening, Celeste said. We announce a partnership, the Thomas Morgan Foundation, funded by Thorn Industries. We dedicate resources to supporting inventors and creators who never got their chance. We make your father's legacy about innovation and opportunity. Nina's PR instincts were firing on all cylinders despite her injury. And we get ahead of Victoria by acknowledging Adrian's debt to Thomas before she can weaponize it. That's just spin, Adrian said bitterly. It doesn't change what I did. No, but it gives meaning to it. Celeste stepped closer to him. My father would have loved knowing his ideas became something real. He would have hated seeing his work used as a weapon to destroy rather than create. Adrian's phone buzzed, his security chief. Sir, Ms. Marsh is getting aggressive. She's demanding you come down now or she starts talking. Give me 2 minutes, Adrian said, then looked at Celeste. If we do this, I'm signing over half the company to you. Right now. Today. Those patents were your father's, which makes them yours. I don't want your company. It's not about what you want. It's about what's right. Celeste saw the fierce determination in his eyes and realized this was non-negotiable for him. If she wanted to stop Victoria, she had to accept. Fine. But the foundation comes first. We announce it immediately. Adrian nodded, then pulled out his phone and made a call. Get legal here now. I need transfer papers drawn up in the next 10 minutes. While they waited, Celeste found herself studying Adrian's face. The man who'd danced with her at the gala felt like a lifetime ago. This man was raw, exposed, every defense stripped away. Why did you really want to meet me? She asked quietly, while Nina coordinated with Adrian's PR team. At first, guilt. Your father's daughter existed somewhere in the world, and I'd been too much of a coward to find you before. Adrian's voice was barely audible. But when I saw your photo, something else happened. You looked so much like him. Same eyes, same gentle smile. And I thought about how he used to talk about you, how proud he was. I wanted to know if you were as special as he believed. And? You're more. Adrian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingers touched her face with reverent gentleness. You're stronger than I'll ever be. You've been through loss and pain, and instead of becoming bitter, you became kind. You chose invisibility not because you were weak, but because you were protecting yourself. I chose visibility because I was running from who I really was. Who are you really, Adrian? I'm a thief who fell in love with the daughter of the man I stole from. I'm someone who deserves nothing but is being offered grace I don't understand. I haven't forgiven you, Celeste said, needing him to know. I don't know if I can. I know. But I don't want to see you destroyed. Is that enough? It's more than I hoped for. The lawyers arrived, and within 15 minutes, papers were drawn up transferring 49% of Thorn Industries to Celeste Morgan, effective immediately. Adrian insisted she maintain control, refusing to take even joint ownership. You're sure about this? The lawyer asked Adrian. This is billions of dollars. I've never been more sure of anything, Celeste signed, her hand trembling. Just like that, she went from invisible librarian to one of the wealthiest women in the country. Now what? She asked. Now we face Victoria together. Adrian held out his hand. Partners? Celeste looked at his outstretched hand for a long moment. Taking it meant binding herself to him in ways that terrified her. But leaving him to face this alone felt wrong too. She took his hand. Partners. They went downstairs together, Nina limping beside them, her head wound covered with a proper bandage now. The building's lobby was chaos. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and Victoria stood at the center. Of it all in another crimson dress, her smile victorious. There he is, she called out. The thief himself. Tell them, Adrian. Tell them how you built your empire on stolen patents. Adrian stepped forward, and Celeste felt his hand tighten around hers. But before he could speak, Celeste pulled him back. "I'll handle this," she whispered. "Celeste, no. Trust me." She stepped forward, and the cameras swiveled to her. She'd never been good at being seen, but something about this moment felt right. Like all the years of invisibility had been preparing her for this. "My name is Celeste Morgan," she said, her voice carrying across the lobby. "Thomas Morgan was my father. And yes, Adrian Thorne built his company using my father's patents." Victoria's smile widened. The reporters erupted with questions. Celeste continued. "What Ms. Marsh doesn't seem to understand is that my father would have been proud. He was a dreamer who never got to see his ideas realized. Adrian gave them life. He created something extraordinary from those seeds my father planted." "He stole from a dead man," Victoria shouted. "He was a 19-year-old kid who made a choice I wish he hadn't made," Celeste replied. "But I've spent the last hour with him, and I've seen his remorse. I've accepted his offer to sign over half his company to me. And together, we're establishing the Thomas Morgan Foundation to ensure other inventors get the recognition and support they deserve." The reporters exploded with new questions. Victoria's face went from triumph to fury. "You're defending him?" Victoria pushed through the crowd toward Celeste. "He's manipulating you just like he manipulated me." "No," Celeste said firmly. "He's taking responsibility. Something you might want to consider." "I loved him," Victoria's voice cracked. "I gave him everything, and he threw me away like I was nothing." Adrian stepped forward. "Victoria, what we had wasn't love. It was convenience. I'm sorry I hurt you, but this has to stop." "Stop?" Victoria laughed, a wild sound. "This is just beginning." She pulled something from her purse. A phone. "I have recordings, Adrian. Conversations between you and your lawyers about how to hide the patent origins. Emails about paying off people who might have known Thomas. You've been covering this up for years." The blood drained from Adrian's face. "That's not possible." "Your head of security? Marcus? He's been working for me for 6 months. I know everything." Adrian turned to look at Marcus, who stood near the entrance. The man's face was apologetic but resigned. "I'm sorry, sir," Marcus said. "She offered me $5 million. I have a daughter who needs specialized medical care. I couldn't say no." The betrayal hit Adrian visibly. He staggered back a step, and Celeste caught him. Victoria's smile returned. "So, here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me $50 million, Adrian. Cash. Today. And you're going to publicly admit that you and I are reconciling. Or I release everything, and you go to prison for fraud and theft." The lobby went silent. Every camera was pointed at them. Celeste felt Adrian's body go rigid beside her. She knew what he was thinking. Prison would destroy everything. Not just for him, but for the thousands of people who depended on his company. But before either of them could respond, Nina stepped forward. "Or," Nina said calmly, "we tell everyone about your illegal recordings, your bribery of security personnel, your stalking, and your violation of multiple restraining orders. Because I've been recording this entire conversation, Victoria, and it's already being live-streamed to every major news outlet." Victoria's face went white. "You're bluffing." Nina held up her phone. On the screen was a live stream with over 100,000 viewers. "The police are already on their way," Nina continued. "You have about 3 minutes before they arrive. I suggest you use that time to run." For a moment, Victoria stood frozen. Then she looked at Adrian, at Celeste, at the cameras, and something in her broke. She threw her phone at Adrian with all her strength, screaming incoherently, and bolted for the door. The police caught her before she made it outside. In the chaos that followed, Celeste found herself in Adrian's arms. He was shaking, his face buried in her hair, holding her like she was the only real thing in the world. "It's over," she whispered. "No," Adrian said, pulling back to look at her. "It's just beginning." Everything she said was true, Celeste. "I did try to cover it up. I did pay people off. I'm not the man you think I am." "I know exactly who you are," Celeste said. "You're someone who's made mistakes and is trying to do better. Just like all of us. I don't deserve you." "Probably not." A small smile tugged at her lips. "But maybe I don't deserve you either. Maybe we're both broken people who found each other at exactly the right time." Adrian kissed her then, in front of all the cameras, in front of the world. It was desperate and tender and real. When they finally broke apart, Celeste realized something had shifted inside her. She was no longer invisible, but she was no longer hiding either. She was just Celeste, and that was enough. 6 months later, Celeste stood in front of a building that hadn't existed before. The Thomas Morgan Innovation Center gleamed in the morning sun, all glass and possibility. Inside, 20 inventors were working on projects that could change the world, funded by the foundation that bore her father's name. Adrian stood beside her, hands in his pockets, watching her face. "You're thinking about him," he said quietly. "Always." Celeste smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. "I wish he could see this." "I think he can." They'd spent the last 6 months in therapy, both together and separately. Celeste had needed to process the betrayal, the lies, the complicated grief of losing her father all over again when she learned the truth. Adrian had needed to face the choices he'd made and understand why he'd made them. It hadn't been easy. There were nights Celeste couldn't look at him without seeing her father's stolen dreams. There were days Adrian couldn't look at her without drowning in guilt. But they'd chosen to try. Not because it was simple, but because what they'd found together was worth fighting for. "The board meeting is in an hour," Adrian said, checking his watch. "Are you ready?" Celeste took a deep breath. Today, she would officially take her seat as co-CEO of Thorn Industries. The announcement had shocked the business world, but after 6 months of watching her transform the foundation into something extraordinary, no one questioned her capability anymore. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Good. That means you care." Adrian's hand found hers. "You're going to be brilliant." They walked inside together, past the inventors working at their stations, past the wall of photos that showed her father's original sketches next to the technologies they'd inspired. Celeste had insisted on that wall, on making sure everyone who walked through these doors knew where it all began. In the conference room, Nina was already setting up. Her friendship with Celeste had survived, though it had required brutal honesty and time. She'd resigned from Thorn Industries to start her own PR firm, but she still consulted on the foundation. "You look presidential," Nina said, straightening Celeste's collar. "Your father would be so proud." "I hope so." The board members filed in, powerful men and women who controlled billions. 6 months ago, Celeste would have been terrified to speak in front of them. Now, she took her seat at the head of the table beside Adrian and felt nothing but calm certainty. "Before we begin," Adrian said, "I have an announcement." Celeste looked at him, confused. This wasn't on the agenda. Adrian pulled out a folder and slid it across to her. "These are the original patent filings for the technology that started this company. I've had them legally revised. Thomas Morgan is now listed as the sole inventor. His name will be on every piece of technology we've ever created." Celeste's eyes filled with tears. "Adrian, it should have been done 10 years ago. It's done now." He looked at the board members. "I've also drafted a public statement taking full responsibility for the theft. It will go out today with our quarterly earnings." "That will tank the stock," one board member protested. "Temporarily, perhaps," Adrian said, "but we've built this company on innovation and integrity. It's time we actually embodied those values. The board can vote to remove me if you feel it's necessary." Silence filled the room. Then the oldest board member, a woman who'd been with the company since the beginning, spoke. "You should have done this 10 years ago," she said. "But the fact that you're doing it now, knowing the cost, tells me something about your character. I vote to keep you on. One by one, the other board members agreed. When the vote was finished, Adrian was still CEO, but he'd be on probation for a year. It was more than fair. After the meeting, Celeste and Adrian stood on the building's rooftop, looking out at the city where they'd both been lost and then found. "Do you regret it?" Adrian asked. "Choosing this? Choosing me?" Celeste considered the question seriously. 6 months ago, she'd been invisible, safe in her cocoon of solitude. Now she was visible to the entire world. Now she carried the weight of responsibility for thousands of employees, dozens of inventors, and a foundation that bore her father's name. Now she was in love with a man who'd stolen from her father, who'd lied to her, who'd built his empire on someone else's dreams. "No," she said finally. "I don't regret it. Even knowing everything? Even knowing I'll probably never stop feeling guilty? Adrian," Celeste turned to face him fully, "what you did was wrong. Nothing will ever change that. But you've spent 10 years trying to be worthy of my father's faith in you. You've created something meaningful. And when given the choice between saving yourself and doing what's right, you chose right. Because of you. No, because of who you've become." She took his hands. "We're both broken, Adrian. We've both lost people we loved. We've both made choices we wish we could take back. But maybe that's what makes this work. We see each other clearly. All the flaws and failures. And we choose each other anyway." Adrian pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. "I love you, Celeste Morgan. I loved you when I first saw your photo, and you were just a dream of redemption. I loved you when we danced at that gala, and you were the first real thing I'd touched in years. And I love you now, standing on top of the world with you, knowing I don't deserve any of it, but grateful for every second." "I love you too," Celeste whispered. "And maybe you're right. Maybe you don't deserve it, but I'm giving it to you anyway. Not as forgiveness, not as absolution, just as love." They kissed as the sun set over the city, two broken people who'd found each other in the wreckage and decided to build something new. Later that night, Celeste returned to her apartment, the same small space she'd lived in when she was invisible. She'd bought a penthouse with her newfound wealth, but she hadn't moved yet. Couldn't bring herself to leave the place where she'd learned to be alone. On her father's old desk, she found a letter she'd written 6 months ago, but never sent. It was addressed to him, full of anger and grief and confusion about what Adrian had done. She read it now, seeing her pain from that moment preserved in ink. Then she took out a new piece of paper and began to write. "Dear Dad, I found out the truth about what happened to your patents. I know you would be devastated to learn that someone you trusted took them, but I also think you'd understand why he did it. You always saw the best in people, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. Adrian Thorne has spent 10 years trying to honor your memory by creating something extraordinary. He's failed in some ways. He's succeeded in others. But most importantly, he's trying. He's taking responsibility. He's making it right. I've fallen in love with him, Dad. I know that might be hard to understand, but you taught me that people are complicated, that we're all capable of both great harm and great good. Adrian is both, and somehow that makes me love him more, not less. We've created a foundation in your name. We're helping inventors like you get their chance. We're making sure your legacy lives on, not as a cautionary tale, but as inspiration. I miss you every day. I wish you were here to see what's become of your dreams. But I think somehow you are here, in every innovation that comes out of the center that bears your name, in every inventor who gets their shot because of what you started. I'm not invisible anymore, Dad. I'm scared, invisible, and in love and trying to figure out how to be all those things at once. But I think you'd be proud of who I'm becoming. Thank you for believing in Adrian when he was just a lost kid. Thank you for dreaming dreams big enough to change the world. And thank you for being my father. I love you. Always, Celeste. She folded the letter carefully and placed it in the box where she kept all her father's things. Then she called Adrian. "Come over," she said when he answered. "Is everything okay?" "Yes, I just want you here." When he arrived 30 minutes later, she led him to the bedroom, and they lay together in the dark, holding each other like they could protect each other from the past. "Tell me something true," Celeste whispered. "I'm terrified of losing you." "Tell me something else." "I think your father would have liked us together. I think he'd see that we're both trying to be better than we were. One more thing." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then, I think we're going to make it. Not because it's easy, but because we both know what it costs to find each other. We're not going to waste it." Celeste smiled in the darkness. "You're right. About which part?" "All of it." They fell asleep like that. Two people who'd started as lies and become truth. Two people who'd found each other in the ruins and decided to build something lasting. The next morning, Celeste woke to find Adrian already awake, watching her. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That I've spent 10 years running from who I was. But lying here with you, I finally feel like I can stop running. Where will you go instead?" Adrian smiled, the expression transforming his face into something young and hopeful. "Forward, with you." Celeste kissed him, soft and slow, and thought about all the versions of herself she'd been. The invisible girl, the grieving daughter, the betrayed woman, the powerful CEO. All of them were still inside her. All of them mattered. But this version, the woman who chose love despite all the reasons not to, the woman who chose visibility despite all the safety of hiding, this version felt most true. "I have something for you," Adrian said, reaching for his jacket. He pulled out a small velvet box. Celeste's heart stopped. "Adrian, it's not what you think. I mean, it is, but not yet. Not until you're ready." He opened the box to reveal a simple silver ring with a small emerald, the same color as the dress she'd worn the night they met. "This is a promise that I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of you, that I'll never lie to you again, that whatever we build together will be built on truth." Celeste took the ring, sliding it onto her right hand. "And when I'm ready for it to be on my left hand? Then I'll ask you properly, with flowers and tears, and probably a terrible speech about how you saved me from myself." "I didn't save you. You saved yourself. We saved each other," Adrian corrected. "That's how this works." They spent the rest of the morning planning the future. The foundation's expansion, the company's next innovations, the life they were building together, brick by careful brick. It wasn't perfect. They still had hard conversations ahead. They still carried their scars. But they were choosing each other every single day, with full knowledge of the cost and the beauty of that choice. As Celeste looked at the ring on her finger, catching the morning light, she thought about her father's dreams becoming reality in ways he never imagined. She thought about Adrian's redemption, earned through years of effort and one moment of brutal honesty. She thought about her own transformation from invisible to visible, from hidden to seen. And she thought about how sometimes the most extraordinary love stories are the ones built on imperfect foundations, the ones that require forgiveness and growth, and the courage to choose connection over safety. She was no longer the girl who hid in libraries, afraid of being seen. She was Celeste Morgan, keeper of her father's legacy, builder of dreams, lover of a complicated man with a complicated past. She was exactly who she was meant to be. And this was exactly where she was meant to be. Right here, in this moment, choosing love over fear, truth over comfort, and a future bright with possibility over a past dark with regret. "Ready to face the world?" Adrian asked, standing and offering his hand. Celeste took it, feeling the familiar electric connection that had been there from the first moment they touched. "With you?" she said, smiling. "Always." They walked out together into the morning light, two people who'd found each other in the darkness and decided to illuminate the path forward. The story of Celeste and Adrian wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple, but it was real. And real was all they'd ever needed. The end.